I want to say hello and welcome. My name is Linda Bratten. I am the creative force behind Linda Bratten Creations, and I'm a national educator with Baby Lock. That means I get to share with you my love of the Solaris and all that it can do. Now, those of you that are familiar with my work know that I'm in love with free motion. I love all things free motion quilting, free motion couching. It's my favorite thing about creating. And while I do other things, it's just one of those things that I get to share with folks, and I get to see the light bulbs go off. So I'm so excited that I get to take this afternoon with you and share with you a couple of hints, tips, and what I have discovered using the free motion couching foot. Now, why would we want to do free motion couching? Well, first of all, we got to use all these thick, fun threads that we might have in our studios, things like chenille and yarns and those type of things. They're fun and they add instant texture to your piece. So it's a different way to be creative. Now, having told you that I love all things free motion quilting, let me say this about the free motion quilting foot. Because you're couching down a thicker yarn or thread, you don't have to be quite as precise or accurate when it comes to free motion quilting. So this opens up a huge opportunity for those of you that want to take advantage of doing, or maybe perhaps learning free motion quilting and getting bold statement pieces out of it. And at the end, I'm going to share with you some of my samples that I have, some of the fun things that I've actually done. And then the last thing is, of course, it's fun. It's like I said, hang around me long enough and you'll be doing lots of free motion. So let's take a look, first of all, at what kind of threads you can actually use with the free motion couching foot and what I have found to be successful. Now, this is the free motion couching foot. It is an add-on foot. And what I like about it is that it comes with all the pieces necessary. This is actually a thread guide that plugs into your digital dual feed port. It comes with another thread guide bar that attaches to the feet with a screw. And this is adjustable, and you can make this thread guide go fairly close to the foot. I always like to keep mine just a little further away because I have larger hands, and so to attach the foot and being able to use my screwdriver, it's always handy. And then the last one is really hard to see, but it is a metal threader, and this is very important to the process. So let's go ahead and talk just a little bit about what kind of yarns or threads I can actually use. Now, basically, any yarn or thread that has a real tight twist to it is going to make you very successful. Now, there are, of course, other considerations. This is just a standard acrylic thread, really tight twist. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just, this feeds through the machine, and this is actually what we're going to be using today. This is a cotton thread, and once again, it's that tight twist. And it's done in a variegated. That's actually what I used on this piece when I was just doing the samples. And then you can always add, this is I believe, an acrylic yarn or thread with a metallic to it. This gives it a little bit of sparkle, a little bit of punch. And this is a great opportunity for those of you that might have trouble using metallic threads, because you're couching it. It doesn't have to go through the needle, and you don't have to deal with abrasions. Now, when talking about twist and making sure that the twist is appropriate, I picked up this cotton yarn, and I thought, oh, it's going to be great. But I don't know if you can see this, but just as it's cut, it's already unwinding. And I had issues using this one because the twist wasn't tight enough. Now, many of you might be familiar with this type of thread. This is a baker's twine. And notice how tight that twist is. This actually worked really, really well. Now, I'm going to preface this. You can use a wide variety of yarns, but make sure that they are color fast. So if you're buying hand-dyed yarns, you're going to want to test those before you actually launder the product that you're couching to, because that's going to make a difference in the end. And I want to just make sure that you're aware of that. There's always two types of creatives, those who test and those who wish they tested. So we don't want you to put all the effort into a project and then not be able to launder it. The other thing I want to share with you just briefly, we're going to next talk about setup and how to set your machines up. But one thing that you can't see, and I'm going to share this on my my screen here. This is the port. This is where my digital dual feed goes on the back end of my machine, and that thread guide goes right in there. And then you can take this portion of the thread and run it up through your thread, your two spool thread guides that sit on top of your lid. That's just, I wanted to share that with you because I don't have a camera set up to share that portion of the lesson with you. But I do want to take you over to the machine, and I'm going to adjust this just slightly. Oh, here we go. It did click for me. Now I do want to share with you what we have going on here and how to set your machine up for success. Now this is our, this is the screen that we work with, and I'm going to go to the settings page, which is, let's see if I can get it to read. There we go. Now, some things that you may have to adjust on the settings page. One of them is your presser foot height. Now, I'm going to leave mine at the default, but you may actually have to raise it depending on the thickness of the material. If you're actually couching on top of a quilt that's been quilted, this could be an important issue or an important setting that you may have to do. And this is on page 1. But if you go all the way over to page 10, let me just get there fast. Another setting that I like to keep on is my fabric thickness sensor. And I just like to always have that when I'm doing free motion quilting. Now, when you open up or turn on your machine, it's going to come to a default. You may either have it set for utility or for quilting. Now, technically, yes, you could just go to your tools and hit your free motion, your free motion couching foot or free motion couching setting, but that's not what you want to do. I want to emphasize this. Don't just do that. There is actually a stitch. Let me close this. And it's found in the S section of our utility stitches. I call this my specialty section. And if you click on that, in the Solaris, the first stitch or the S-01 that has a C by it, that is your couching stitch. And what this does is this actually, you'll notice when you click on it, it shows you the X foot. And that is the free motion couching foot that we're using today. What I like about this is you're going to notice that your width and length are blacked out. There's no way, I get the knock knock. I can't change those. The one thing I can change is my needle shift left or right. And what I like to do is to set myself up for success. You're going to notice if you are in the free motion couching stitch, this is what I call an insurance policy because I won't be able to left or right shift. And this is going to be very important when you take a look at this foot, because when I describe what's going to happen to this foot, you're going to want to make sure that you are in this free motion couching stitching, because this actually not only protects your machine, because it knows its limit left or right where the needle can move, so it's not going to hit the presser foot, but it also allows you to get success right out of the bat. All right. And let me show you what I mean. I'm going to switch my cameras again here. So give me just a minute. I'm going to take you down to the machine. All right. So what we're going to look at here is the free motion couching foot. And I don't know if you can see this, but when you look at the free motion couching foot, you're going to notice that the needle will go in and out of this metal base that has 3 holes. You always want it to be in the center, and you want your yarn to be threaded from the side thread guide here and down through the center. That's very important. The other 2 we won't use, but if you were just in standard free motion quilting setting, you could actually move your needle and shift it left or right, and you may stand the chance of hitting this center metal plate. You don't want to do that because that's going to, that can definitely break a needle, and it can also adjust your machine and take it out. So you don't want to do that. We always want to treat our machines exceptionally nice so that we can play with them or sew with them, create with them a lot longer. The other thing you're going to notice is that the base of this foot is really, really wide compared to the standard free motion quilting foot. Now, this is a free motion quilting foot, and you're going to notice that you don't want to use this when you are couching because you would snag the yarns on this toe of the foot. The other foot that you might be tempted to try free motion couching with is the Echo quilting foot. And it too has the acrylic, I want to call it bowl-like shape, or it looks like a big giant contact lens. But what this allows for is for you to glide, oops, excuse me here. It allows for you to glide over the yarns and not catch them. That's why this has this nice big base. All right, so I have my machine threaded through the thread guide in the back. I have it going through my telescoping thread guide on top of the machine. Over here on the side, you can't see it, but I have it going through the thread guide here. And what I want to show you is what I have found helpful when threading the actual foot. Now, the easiest way to do that is to take it off, but I wanted to make sure that it was on tight. And you're going to notice that this thread guide looks a lot like the Serger metal thread guides. It has a loop here that we're going to use. It's just like think of it as a giant needle threader. And so what I have found helpful is to take my tweezers, and I love these bent tweezers, and I put them inside the loop, and I pinch my yarn and I pull it through my needle threader. This helps me just get things started. Then I take the actual wire piece and I run it through the side thread guide on the foot, and I just pull it through. I'm going to pull my actual needle thread through, and then I take it through the bottom. Now, and this is going through that middle hole of the presser foot. Once I get that tip in there, I just take my tweezers and I just pull it out, and easily I have this threaded. Now, this, I don't know about you folks, but mine can get lost in my sewing room. It is way too thin. So I always try to make sure that I put it right back in the container. And of course, on our Solaris machine, we all know that over here, we have a lovely magnet. And sometimes I can put it there, but I'm telling you, it is so thin and so lightweight, you might actually lose it. Now, it does recommend that you take your ball of yarn. And I want to tell you this, one thing that I learned is to roll my yarn in a ball. Don't leave it in the skein. You want it to freely come off the ball here, or off the skein. And so sometimes when it's in a long flat skein like this, it doesn't come off easily because it flops. But a rolling unit helps. The other thing I have found helpful is to keep this ball fairly close within my vision. Now, as a free motion quilter, I'm looking here all the time. So I like to have my ball here. It does recommend that you put it up on top, but once again, visibly, if I can see this getting tight like this, I know I have to roll this over, assist it a little bit just to loosen it, because you're going to notice that if the yarn is not freely flowing through the thread guides, you will start getting what I call eyelashes or little stress points as you quilt. And we don't want that. We want to have something absolutely fabulous. So once I get my yarn threaded, I do want to leave a nice long tail. And I'm going to tell you why. This nice long tail then becomes a way that I can actually finish my piece and have it look super great. Now, I do have my needle set to the down position, and that's just kind of standard when I do a lot of free motion quilting. And all I'm going to do right now is lower my presser foot and insert my needle and lift it up. What I'm doing is bringing my bobbin thread to the top. So hopefully, see here, needle floss, just like this. And what that does is, if I have my bobbin thread, so you should see I have a yarn, I have a top thread, and a bobbin thread. And I'm just using a polyester thread. I love to quilt with polyester thread. It's a 40 weight. I do say, go ahead and use a thread that matches. So what happens with your yarn and your couching is that it actually gets embedded in the nap of the thicker yarn that you're couching. So actual color, if you're close, it's going to look good. So you're going to notice that today I'm actually using a white thread with a light blue yarn. And I just always pull up my bobbin thread to the top. And what that does is it prevents it from you getting a thread nest on the back side of your piece. And this is just standard cotton, some blue, dark blue cotton with a piece of stabilizer behind it. If I was doing a quilt sandwich that I was couching on, I wouldn't have to have the stabilizer. But you definitely want to stabilize this, because there's going to be, and those of you that do the machine embroidery know that you're going to gather things up slightly, and there's going to be some slight pull compensation. Now, another thing that I have on my work on my work area is a gridded glider. This just is like a Teflon sheet that allows me to move my project easily. Anytime I have less resistance, I'm going to have smoother stitches. So that's just some setup that I like to do when it comes to free motion couching. Now, as I mentioned before, I always move my left-right shift clear over to 2.75. And that's going to put the needle as close as it can get to that center opening on the left side to help catch my yarn. The one thing that I notice on people who are new to free motion couching is they don't realize that they have to actually catch the yarn, and when you don't, you will get quilting stitches with, in this case, my white thread, and your yarn will lay next to it. But by catching it, initially, I'm going to anchor it and secure it. So I'm going to lower my presser foot. My light will turn green so I can go. And when I get started, I'm just going to take a few stitches here just to anchor this. And so I barely move it, but then I'm ready to go. Once I have this anchored, now I'm ready to do whatever I want to do. I can do straight lines. Okay. And if I had a pattern that I wanted to follow, let's say I wanted to, let's start doing something. Let's do some leaves. Leaves are fun. You're going to notice that you don't have to be as accurate, nor do you have to maintain a stitch length that is similar in size. As long as you are couching your yarn, you're going to be fine. Now, if I notice that my yarn is laying super flat and it's just gotten pressed down, I'm going to take that left-right shift button and I'm going to loosen it up. I'm going to go higher with it, maybe a 2.88. But this one seems to be doing okay. I can see that it's still standing up. It's catching. I like what it's doing. So let's keep going and let's add some curves to this, some circles. It's always a good thing to test just to see, maybe do a couple more leaves here. I like to do leaves with some kind of a vein to them. Okay, so the reason I like to do a circle is it lets me know how it's going to respond. And I don't know if you can see this here, but it got a little tight and I saw a little bit of eyelashing. That just told me I need to loosen my thread a little bit more. So let's keep going and let's see. Let's try some feather-like pieces. To give you an idea what the free motion couching foot can actually do for you. Loosen this up a little bit more. The pause, every time I pause, I'm actually releasing some more of the yarn so that it doesn't get caught up on anything. It also, because my needle is in the down position, it lets me know where I need to start again. Do you have to go fast? Oh no, not by any means. Let's see, let's do a spiral. I love the spirals, they're kind of fun. And to make a really good spiral, you kind of pause in the center and then you just echo it right back out. Let's do go in the other direction. Gosh, I just love this. I could play with this most of the afternoon if I don't have anything else. Now, the neat thing about free motion couching, once again, like I said, is you can go around shapes. You can do, I can write initials. So maybe you just want to put someone's name on a special project that you're doing. And of course, I'm writing my name because that's the one I'm most skilled with. Oops, hang on here, getting tight again. The other thing you can do with the free motion couching foot is you can actually fill in shapes. All right, so I've got Linda going here. Let's go ahead and create something fun, something simple like a heart. Most of you have probably stitched a heart before. Maybe you've drawn a heart. Anything. Now, when I teach my free motion quilting classes, I always say, do what you know first. We've probably written love letters and added hearts from our youth on. But notice what you can do here with the free motion couching foot. And that is, because we're using such thicker yarns, we can actually fill it in fairly quickly. Hang on here, I need to give myself a little bit more gas. Got to readjust my foot. So let me know in the comments if you do free motion quilting, because I think you're going to find this just a lovely, this foot and a lovely addition to your creative sketchbook or trick book. Oh, let's see here. I probably should have told you I really can't stitch and talk. It's a sad, sad truth. But let's do a little bit of how about a scallop on this? I think that would be fun. Now, the only thing that I don't like about this is that metal plate does inhibit. That's why you'll see me twisting things around here. It prohibits me from seeing exactly where my needle is hitting. But I'm telling you, because we are working with couching yarns, we can be close and still have fun. All right, so let's just take it on out. Let's do a few. Love doing swirls. I think they're fun. All right. So this kind of gives you some idea of what you can actually accomplish with the free motion quilting foot. Let me show you some of my samples. Now this one, I don't know if you can see it. I thought maybe this camera would be a little bit better, but this is that thin cotton fabric. And you're going to notice when it started changing colors, I came back in here and added once again some more embellishment to it. I did do some fill in the blanks or fill in the actual swirl here. So you can actually use your variegated threads or yarns to your advantage. You can definitely have some fun with this. Now, another thing that I did, and this is for you garment people, because for many years I taught in a sewing studio that was primarily garment people. This is me playing. What if I had a collar, a bib collar for a small child's outfit, and I just used some of that baker's twine, and I thought, wouldn't it be kind of fun just to do a little zigzag or a little element? Now, what I did is I drew my outline on my stabilizer. So I knew about where I should be. You could even draw the element that you wanted to free motion couch down and then add this in and create your collar and just have some fun with it. Once again, if you're going to use something like baker's twine, I would definitely test to make sure that it is color fast for you, especially on a collar with a small child. You're going to want to be able to make sure that that works. Now, another thing that I did, this is hard to see. I just noticed this is really hard to see, but this is an all over floral design. I just did it white cotton. Once again, I stabilized it, but you can see on the back here, my stitches probably aren't as perfect or as small as they are when I try to do standard free motion quilting. This is the beauty of using the free motion couching foot. And once again, it just gives a bold statement. This is actually turning out to be one of my favorite pieces. I'm going to have to find something to use this on. Now, I don't know if you can see here, I do have the start and stop point here raised. And what I want to share with you is how I like to finish this off. Now, this is a tapestry needle or a yarn darning needle. What you're going to look for is something with a large eye to help get those thick threads threaded easily, and a point. And the way you use this, or what I do with these, is I take and once again, I get the thread, get the yarn into the, oops, I should have probably put it in here first and then put it into this. Sometimes you have to do that depending on the size of the needle. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this yarn to the back. And then I would get a self-threading needle and do the same thing here. But you can see how that's going to give you a really nice finished appearance. And then I could knot this on the backside, or I could bury it. Now, there is another way to finish these, but I'll tell you that when I get to that project that I used it on. Um, so this is just one sample, but you can see how that would give it a nice finished look, or you could just always finish your stitches off on the side. This one was a practice, and I used that metallic yarn, and I just love the hint of the glitter to it. I think it's fun. Now, this is just a simple quilting motif that's like one of my go-tos, leaves and curls. In fact, you can go to my website, Linda Bertine Creations, and I think I have a tutorial, something on that. But this was the practice for this scarf, and I think it was such fun. Now, you're going to notice when I started this, instead of pulling it to the back, because this is a scarf, okay, I did use a tearaway. Now, you want to kind of be careful. If I was going to use a tearaway, you're going to have to be very, very careful when you remove it. If your scarf can allow water, I would almost use a water-soluble stabilizer. But the tearaway, because the stitches are a little bit longer, you may actually pull stitches. So what I recommend is if I'm going to do something dense, like, for example, on this piece here, I would almost recommend using a cutaway, because there's so many stitches here. To pull all this out, not going to be much fun. I would use a cutaway or a no-show mesh that I'm going to leave on the back side of my project and just give that extra stability. But here with this, I did use a tearaway, and then I did two things. On this one, with my end of thread, I just wove it back through the stitches, and then I came in with a little bit of fray block. It's this product here. Those of you, it's obviously a much used product, but I finished the edges on both of these with just a little bit of fray block, and that helped secure my stitches. And then on the other end, of course, if it's my scarf, I'm going to put my initials. Same thing here. You can see where I started and stopped it, and there's a little bit of extra bulk here. That's because I wove those ends of the yarns right back in and finished that off. So now I have a great scarf to start out the winter season. How else can you use this? Well, this is a 3-pocket, and what it was basically like a 20 by 20 inch piece of fabric that I just free motion couched. Now, okay, those of you that know me know I absolutely love the sparkle. And I will tell you, this was a bit of a headache. It's probably not the funnest or the best yarn. It has more of a, more of a crocheted type structure to it rather than a twist. So it almost looks like a knitted tube or a crocheted line, okay? So I had to go much slower, and there was probably a lot more repeating, trying to get things covered. But I just did an all-over stipple to keep it fairly close. And when you have something that's kind of fudgy or finicky to work with, I say just go slow. There's no rush to this. However, this was my fun project. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to have the Bluebird of Happiness? I'm trying to do this so you can actually see it. Wouldn't it be fun to have this on a blue jean jacket, like on your shoulder? Who doesn't want the Bluebird of Happiness on your shoulder? So I took a photo and I traced the outlines of where I wanted the yarns to go on a piece of water-soluble topper using a permanent ultra-fine Sharpie. And then I just filled in, just like we showed you before. Now, the details with the beak and the eye, I had to come back in with that Echo quilting stick, because once again, remember I mentioned that silver plate is a little bit hard to see for accuracy. And I love to do thread painting. So this allowed me to see where I was stitching on the beak and to add some shading. Now, I did do this on a cotton duck because I was thinking stability, and I was going to cut this out and then applique it to my jacket. This would not be fun to try to do on a shoulder of a jacket. So I was going to make this as a patch or an applique and then apply it to my piece where I was going to go. However, as I was doing this, I anticipated tons of ripples, tons of pull compensation, but I didn't have it. That was the beauty of this. If you look on the back side, you can see where all of my yarns are pulled to the back. And notice how not close, how much space I have between some of my lines of stitching. That's the beauty of the yarn, because when you look on this side, all you see is a great texture and a lovely little bird to get you through the day. All right. So then, of course, those of you that know I'm a quilter, how could I not do this without having it on a quilt? So I got to. So this is a pattern that I teach. It's make your own panel, but you can buy a panel. You don't have to make your own. I'm just a mixed media person. And I painted the peacock, and then I did all of my free motion quilting on it. So all the swirls and everything was totally done. Then in the end, because this was a resist that you can kind of see there's some whites over here that I used to create the peacock feather. Then I came back in with my bold black thread to kind of complement the outside fabric, and I just enhanced my peacock feather all the way around. So you can use it on your standard quilts. Think about those of you that do landscaping, think about tree trunks. This is a great way to add some texture in a hurry. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that I have inspired you to be creative and to explore free motion couching with your Solaris. Once again, you can find me on my website. It's my name, Linda Bratten Creations. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative inspiration.